Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
Absolutely impossible season.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We're robust. We've got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Jarno Watmere is your champion.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be an interesting one. The rear tyre wear always around here, tricky for the drivers to manage. I think that's going to be something we're going to be seeing throughout the race. Is quite a lot of tyre saving, but also you're pushing right to the limits with all the walls. It's naturally going to bring some incidents around, and we could be seeing a couple of safety cars coming out as well, which could sway the strategy a little bit. Yeah, I am quite familiar with quite a few of these people from a couple of other leagues around. So yeah, yeah, should be an exciting one. I think we've got quite a high caliber of grid here as well. So yeah, I think an interesting race to come ahead of us here tonight. Yeah, I think that's going to be the key focus of the setups for pretty much all of the drivers. To be honest, you're really going to be going for as low wings as you can possibly get away with. I think we're going to see quite a lot of drivers running 0-0 wings potentially as well, just trying to get the maximum top speed down that start-finish straight, and then just make up for it in the corners. Just try and work with it, I guess, because you want to make sure you're able to make the overtakes, and you want to make sure you're able to defend the positions as well.
Alright, so it looks like my mic is at least working now. We've had some issues with that. OBS really loves to change my microphone settings, but looks like everything is now working. That means that everything I said has been lost into the abyss. But to give you a quick recap of that, we have 16 main drivers and 4 reserve drivers. We are racing around the streets of Baku. Championship leader Oliver Knott is absent tonight, so it will be a prime opportunity for Ryan Jacobs and Bennett Hayter to leapfrog them in the standings. In the meantime, we are heading into our short qualifying session here in Baku, so as soon as everyone is loaded in, we'll be able to see what they are going to do with that track. We already heard from Josh, who's given us some great insight on that. You know quite a few drivers as well. Who do you think is the main driver we should watch out for in quali?
I mean, it's a tough one, especially on a track like this. I mean, to be honest, I think anyone can take it. I mean, looking at last time out, Takubi, I think is going to be definitely one of the drivers who's going to be right up there in contention.
Fair enough. Looks like the loading is now complete. You can see the same thing that I am seeing, and we are in the game. It looks to be very sunny out there, so no worries about the rain whatsoever. Just to repeat, the reserve drivers tonight competing are Demaiko in the Red Bull, Kasper Jedrzejczyk in the Mercedes, Inversizo in the Haas, and further down in the Alpine we have Pesci. So these 4, but of course Ryan Jacobs and where is he? Bennett Hayter. So the Racing Bull and the Williams driver, the main protagonist from last week out, of course, with Oliver Knott, are also participating. So I'm going to get my views up nicely so we can have some lap data with our track maps. I see that Alessandro Finn is already leaving pit lane, so we're going to take a closer look at what he will be doing with his first run.
Yeah, so heading out onto the track, the drivers going to be trying to get a bit of temperature into their tyres, although with such a long run down towards turn 1, their efforts might all kind of be for nothing, really. Those tyres probably going to drop about 4 or 5 degrees on the start-finish straight. But of course, you're going to want that grip as you make your way through the middle sector. So going to be a bit of a balancing act for the drivers here as they get themselves ready. Of course, running as low wings as they possibly can in this qualifying session as well. And quite a few drivers making their way out onto track in these opening few minutes. Going to be an interesting qualifying session for sure. Alpine driver going to be getting himself ready for the lap very, very soon. I've just heard somebody already hitting the wall in the castle section on their outlap. Just shows how close the drivers are going to be getting to the walls out there.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Alessandro Finn is about to get onto that long flat out section. This section, 2 kilometers and 10 meters to be exact, the longest flat out section of any F1 track out there. And given the fact that this track is only 6 kilometers and 3 meters long, that's a third of the entire track. We have a yellow flag in sector 2 that's just for cars slowing down. Alessandro Finn is going to start his lap now. He's powering his way down the main straight. Hard braking will be into turn 1, and after that he will take us through.
Decent first corner for the Alpine driver, using a little bit of battery as he makes his way through. You want to try and save it for these long straights though, give yourself a nice run. DRS opens up as well and in towards turn number 4. It's quite a long first sector, still a couple corners left to go as we make our way through. Doesn't look like too bad of a start to the lap, a little love tap on the walls. You're going to be seeing that quite a few times throughout this session as the drivers try and take the maximum width as they possibly can. 34.6 through the first sector. Not too bad at the start of the session.
Not too bad indeed, as he now gets into that tricky second sector. Takes a lot of inner curb on that right-hander, but not getting any track limits. Now castle section. Ooh, that's a big shunt. And he's lucky that that's not a full crash out, because that could have surely ended his qualifying session. He continues on with minimal damage, it seems like. But yeah, that lap is gone for, which means that we are going to move over to one of the other drivers. Looks like a Haas driver is currently next up. That is the likes of Inversizo, as he's now hard braking that turn where Vettel once famously hit the wall, but he's now going to make his way nicely onto the straight sector. Second sector time 1:13.8, a little step out from the back as he makes his way down that long flat out straight. Through the final few corners we go. And now down, powering it down the main straight. How close can he get to those top times? Of course, he'll be the first one to set it. Is that benchmark going to be any good, or how much we still have to beat it? The first lap time set is a 1:37.6, and I think aside from a couple tens, that is not too bad at all.
Yeah, nice lap time on the board there. A lot of time found in the middle sector. In fact, about half a second faster than the next car. But Rafael Kunz going faster. 37.6 for him as well. The Aston Martin driver putting himself up to the top. We've got Casper in the Mercedes as well, coming down towards the start-finish rate. There's quite a few drivers coming towards the end of their laps. Let's see. Spezzi goes up to 4th with a 37.8. Decent time on the board for him, as Ryan Jacob now goes fastest with a 37.3.
And that is a big step up as Bennett Hayter now goes a little bit quicker. Casper can only do a 37.8, but now Bennett's quickest with a 37.328 as Mario Ioannou comes home in third. Let's watch Giovanni Galiotto as he's now making his way towards the start-finish straight. Let's see if he can go any quicker and beat the guys up on top. And he goes 8th fastest with a 37.808, as is Gabriel Moya, who now sets the fastest lap time in 1:37.310. Great lap by him. Let's see how the other drivers fare. Lawrence Patton is about to come across the line. He does so in 11th place. DeMichael is in sector 1, but I think... he's on for a quick lap. I think 34.7 is still quite decent. It's about a 10 slower than we saw Alessandro Finn do earlier on. Takubi is also still in sector 2. I'm not sure if he is pushing.
Takubi is on in lap, I believe.
Yeah.
His first run.
Indeed, does not seem to be pushing. On the other hand, DeMichael still is. And Nando Moreira, he's just making his way down the start-finish straight. Looks like he was on for a push lap as well. And he goes 7th fastest, so that is a pretty good lap altogether. But now then, DeMichael, how quick is he in that middle sector? It's a 1:14.2. That's pretty good, as Bennett Hayter gets a penalty for a collision with Takubi. Now that's a big thing. He is currently 2nd in qualifying, 3rd in the championship standings. This surely might warrant a restart, but I'm not sure if it was valid or not.
It seemed like they were pulling over to the left-hand side, just coming out of turn 15. I didn't actually see the contact happen, but they were both pulled over on the left-hand side as some other cars were making their way through, so it wouldn't surprise me if Tahubi just slowed down a little bit more than Bennett was expecting, and then the Williams driver just going into the back of him.
Wow, it looks like you described it perfectly fine. Already see a message from Takubi in the chat, my bad, to Bennett Hader. So it looks like on his slow lap, indeed, he impeded Bennett. But Bennett got the penalty for it, and if that is the case, we will need a lobby restart after this qualifying session. I'm not sure why it shows lap 0 instead of actual time. Not sure if the yellow flag is just obstructing us from whatever's going on, but we're just going to go on board with the Ferrari man. Tom Wolfgram, our host for tonight, is about to set his first lap. So here he goes, hard braking into turn 1, overshooting the first corner by quite a bit. Wonder how much time that cost him. Then second corner, take a lot of that inner curve. That looks a lot better, although the car's a little bit unstable as he makes his way around turn 2, and now powering it down that main straight, that second straight, as he's braking into turn 4. And again, early braking, take a lot of inner curve. That was a great corner by Tom, as he's now going back to the right-hander. Take a little bit of inner curve. Looks to be quite nicely the lines he's driving, but how fast is it? As he goes for a 34.7. That's marginally slower than we saw the other drivers do, but staying in 34.7s or 6s is where you want to be.
Yeah, purple first sector 34.4, but only 1 or 2 drivers getting close to that time. A lot of them are setting around the 0.6s. Middle sector definitely seems to be the place where drivers are finding time, though. If you can really hook the Castle section up, I think that is the big place where time can be found. If you can just carry that extra 10k of speed through the corner, you can find yourself a good few tenths of a second. Is there an improvement? I think that was Alessandro Finn with a 37.600, jumping up to P5. Tom Wolfgram through the middle sector. Not too bad of a run, actually. Only a couple tenths off the purple once again. Could be looking to jump himself right up into the middle of the pack.
Yeah, I believe he's about a 10th quicker than we saw Inversizo do in that middle sector. And if he does manage to hold on to that lap time, we could see a new 4th or 5th fastest lap time. And we'll don't come across, but he comes across in 9th, so it looks like he lost a little bit of time on the latter stages of the track. So Alessandro Finn, he's lost a heap of time in that first sector, so he won't. Well, he just set a lap time as well. My bad. He was a little bit quicker than Tom Wolfgram. Great lap by him indeed with that 5th place. The rest is all on and out lap, so just have to wait for them to finish. Looks like a Haas driver will be the next one across the line, and that is going to be Inversizo, the man we were just talking about.
Yep, another lap getting underway, and in fact, almost everybody out on the track now. It's just DeMico currently in the pit lane. We've got 2 drivers on their in laps as well. Pretty much everybody going to be starting push laps very, very soon. Going to get another very quick burst of laps, and then one more, I think, coming right at the end of the session. Down towards turn number 3, and this is going to be looking to improve on the 34.6 he has in the first sector. 2 tenths to the purple though, so there definitely is time to be found if he can hook the braking zones up, get the rotation in nicely. Bit of a tap against the wall. Once again, I think something he's seen quite often, and he has found a lot of time in that first sector. 34.4 it was, I believe. And yeah, not looking too bad so far for Inversizo. Could be looking to find some positions here.
Yeah, he's on for pretty much a 4th place if he doesn't go any quicker through the middle and final sector. It's a really good lap so far by Inversizo. We'll go on board with him as he goes into the hard braking zone. That's your key point of this track, where you definitely don't want to overshoot it. It's very easy to bend the car, but he does go through there quite nicely. As now the end of sector 2, he is 3 tenths up, but slightly overshoots himself there. That might cost him a bit of time. If not, and he still manages to gain a bit, this could be on for a new provisional pole lap. There's still 7 minutes left on the clock, but Inversizo is going to be awfully close to that lap time set by Gabriel Moya. But how close can he get? Can he leap it, or will he stay behind? He comes across the line in a 37.298. He is fastest. Inversizo with a great lap, but Ryan Jacobs was just behind, but he has aborted his lap. He was half a second down that middle sector. Surely must have made a mistake there.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest final sector from Invasizo, but it was still slightly better, I think. So has put himself up the provisional pole. Lots more drivers going to be looking to improve, though. We've got a Williams driver, I think, coming towards the line now, and that is going to be Bennett Hyder. He didn't improve on his time, though. 76 thousandths down in the end.
Yeah, just a tad bit down indeed, so not the lap that he was hoping for. I'm not sure if Marius is currently on a push lap, but he did tap the wall there quite a bit. Definitely not on a push lap anymore. Rafael is currently up 4/10 on his own fastest lap time. This could be our new pole lap time as Jonas Orpel now goes quickest ahead of him Verciso, and Takubi just slotting in behind. But here comes Rafael. He's on for a great lap, and that's a massive leap. A 37.127, a tenth and a half quicker than anyone else out there on track, and especially for Bennett Hyder and Ryan Jacobs, where they were looking to go for quite an improvement, they now have quite the distance to go. Great lap by Rafael to put that Aston Martin on top.
And I think crucially for Rafael as well, faster in every single sector than the cars behind him. It was a very, very strong lap and finding time everywhere compared to the rest. So yeah, looking quite strong with a run left to go. He has got a bit of an advantage here. And definitely, I'd say looking like the favourite at the moment for pole.
Yeah, looks to be one of the favourites. Just quickly flicking through to see if any other drivers are still on a push lap. It looks like Nando Moreira at least was or is on a push lap, but he just overshot. So whether that was a push lap or not, that is not going to continue. Alessandro Finn, on the other hand, is on another push lap. This is the third time we see him go out. The first time, of course, he had to abort that one, but now he is back out swinging, currently in P11, so he's looking to go for quite an improvement. It's almost half a second to the top of the timing table, and he needs to start with that in Sector 1. He's hugging the insides quite nicely. Let's go back on board with him to see how fast he is in that first second. That's already 2/10 up with a 34.4, just in the .4s, but enough to already put him well, 2 positions up. It seems to be a whole lot more, but definitely wasn't that much more. And he doesn't nail the corner quite there at the start of the castle section. Keep it out of the wall. It felt like he was touching it there, but looks like he came through unscathed.
Yeah, just about coming through unscathed. There definitely was a brush up against that barrier. All of the time, though, going to be found in this middle sector. He went purple in the final sector on his fastest lap so far, so really got to hope he has nailed this middle sector to give himself that time to find, and there, 0.3 of a second up, looking to put himself in the fight for the second row of the grid, maybe even the front row, if he can match that final sector, burning all the battery on the run up towards the line. Let's see where the Alpine driver can put himself. Is it going to be front row potentially coming his way? DRS opens up and up towards the line. He's actually going to abandon the lap. Back to the pits for the Alpine driver. Going to give himself that one final run with 3 minutes left to go in this session. He thinks he can go even faster on a fresh set of the soft compound tyres.
Well, I think I have to agree with him. We saw him make a slight mistake at the start of the second sector, and if you can already go 0.3 quicker, putting it now in the box means you're going to settle for, let's say, 4th, maybe 3rd, with everyone still going for an improvement. You're definitely going to drop down even further after seeing how fast Rafael could go. And I think if he goes for another run, he can improve by another 10th, maybe 10th and a half. And then you're suddenly up there with the top 5 as soon as all the improvements come in. So I think it's a great move from him to dive into pit lane, even though it was this late. But there definitely is more on the cards for him. We're currently watching Giovanni Galeotto. He was the first one out on the final runs. We're still waiting for everyone to leave pit lane. Top 97 just left it. Michael's still in it. Dennis Kamensky, Pesci, Nando Moreira, Alessandro Finn, of course, and Marius Ioano are still in there. They're now about to leave pit lane as well. Still 4 drivers in it. And it looks like everyone is now leaving pit lane. So that means we'll be getting a good look of the track from Giovanni, as he is going to push us around one final time here around the streets of Baku.
Yep, 1 minute 45 left on the clock. Going to be one final attempt for all of the drivers. Nobody's going to have enough time to go for a second attempt here. So this is going to be the lap to decide the grid for all of these drivers. And Giovanni going to be the first to get us underway here. DRS opens up now. And running down towards the first corner, starting to burn a little bit of battery as you head on towards the brakes. Getting the car rotated and using a bit of that inside curve. Nice run through the first corner for the Haas driver, currently sitting 13th fastest. Going to be looking to try and find some time hitting the wall on the outside, but that's not going to be helping his exit as we run down towards turn number 3. Not a terrible start to the lap, though, still could be potentially finding a bit of time here.
Yeah, the first corner and just now the last corner was really great. And after that, he's starting to overshoot a couple of times, but I think he still might be on for an improvement in that first sector. He's on for an improvement of almost a 10th and a half, but he's just into the 34.5s, so it's a tad slower than the fastest drivers we've seen so far out there. But here in the middle sector, he can improve a lot because that's a great right-hander, taking a lot of that inner curve, keeping it nice and tight through the castle section. Giovanni's on for a monster of a middle sector. If he can keep it together in a hard braking zone that he's now going to approach. But so far, a great run from the Haas driver. Definitely going to improve from P13. And the only way from here is, of course, up. But how much faster is he in that middle sector alone? He is up by almost 4 tenths. That's a massive improvement coming from Giovanni. And this is enough for a current P2. Perhaps even P1 if he improves even more in that final sector, but that's going to be a tough ask. He is going to be the first one to finalize his lap time, but he's definitely going to be in the top 5. How close is it going to be? Is it P1 or P2? Giovanni's run ends in P7. Ooh, losing a little bit of time in that final sector.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of changes here. Ryan Jacobs finding time as well. Goes to second fastest. Very, very competitive. Purple in the second and third sectors. Lots of times going to be changing here. Tom Wolfgram up to 11th fastest. We've got a Sauber as well. Coming across the line to Kubi. Can he snatch pole? No, he can't. Staying in 4th fastest in the end. Not able to improve out there. Spezzi also not improving next to Mercedes. Gonna be Casper. He's also not improving. Quite a few drivers, I think, struggling on their final runs. Bennett Hyde to the top. 37.114. Lawrence Patton goes to second. Just marginally 0.08 of a second behind. Can anybody else get close? Try and challenge Gabriel Moya, not improving. Next going to be the Haas, I think, of Invasizo, who goes up to 4th fastest onto the second row of the grid. Raphael, though, 37.0 in the dying stages of this qualifying session, snatching it back. Couple more drivers coming across the line now as well. Let's see if anybody else can try and find an improvement.
That's going to be very tough to still beat that lap time. The only one, the 37.0s. Marios now goes P5. That's a great final run by him. And now DeMichael coming across the line with a P... I'm not sure. I can't see it on the dash. There it is. P18 for DeMichael. Not the qualifying that he was hoping for. But it's pole position for Rafael Kuntz. And I have to say, Josh, he was the one that stood out mostly, because in the second run and then also the final run, there was no one that could touch him.
Yeah, in the end, he just had that outright pace all the way through. Nobody able to get close. Interestingly, on that final run, not a single purple sector. For Raphael, it was just pure consistency. Able to get close to those purple sectors all the way through, and as a result, that puts him on pole position.
That puts him on pole position indeed, and as the timer countdown ends, we now have to go back to our full camera view. That will be this button. There we go. We will have to do a restart. At least Bennett Hader is already asking for one because he got a grid penalty for that little incident. But since it was Takubi causing that incident, I think we do need a restart. Our host is just going to confirm that before we can continue with that. But that leaves us with a little bit of more time to give you some technical information about the track. So I'm quickly going to go over to our track map and give you some information about that. So about this track, the Baku City Circuit, 20 turns, 6 kilometers and 3 meters, or 3.73 miles, with 2 DRS zones, distance from grid to turn 1 of only 138 meters, and the longest flat-out section of any track out there with 2 kilometers and 10 meters. And finally, most crucially, your pit lane time loss only 16.5 seconds, so not much at all. And definitely the castle section, one to watch out for. Already saw a couple of drivers having a little bumps with the wall there. No No big incident so far, but in the race, that could definitely change. And indeed, restart confirmed.
Restart confirmed, yeah. It's going to be an interesting one once we do get into this race to see what tyres the drivers are choosing. I expect a lot of these drivers haven't gone for the strategy that they're going to go for, but just looking quickly at the race, it's about a 50-50 split. Half the drivers looking at mediums, half the drivers looking at hards, so we could see a bit of a split strategy here. It's not impossible to overtake, so I think that's definitely going to be something interesting once we do head towards the race.
Yeah, indeed. Now we're just watching a little bit of fun chaos ensue as some of the drivers are making their way through, but we should see them retire from the session momentarily, and then we'll be able to restart. Just have to see if we're going to go to a new lobby or if we can stay in the same lobby as Tom gets us up to speed with all the correct settings. Good news for the drivers is that because we have a restart, they'll be able to tweak their setups a little bit, making sure that it's fully optimized for the race that is going to start in a couple of minutes from now. It gives us as well a little bit of a breather to see what is all going to be happening out there. Likely going to see a one-stop, as we see with most races. Maybe a couple of drivers are going to gamble starting on the hards, but I think here, Josh, you want to start at the mediums just to make sure that you keep your position.
Yeah, I mean, if we are to see what we expect we're going to see, I think it's going to be naturally quite difficult to overtake without a big sort of tyre advantage. And even if you do, the main overtaking opportunity is just the DRS straight down towards turn 1. You're going to struggle no matter the tyres because, well, everybody's going to be having that same DRS advantage down towards turn 1. It's going to be quite a strategical race, I think. Timing your overtakes, if you do go for that alternative strategy, you are going to have a very big advantage, but making those overtakes, cutting through the field is going to be the crucial factor, I think, for all of these drivers here tonight. And yeah, I expect, unless everybody chooses to start on hards, it's probably going to be the medium hard that is the favoured strategy here.
Fair enough. Well, and I think aside from that, it all comes down who can play the DRS game the best heading into the final couple of laps, because that is where we're going to find out who is going to win the race for tonight. It's going to be very close up until the finish line, and that is when all will be decided. And the main question, of course, is who is going to leapfrog Oliver Nutt in the standings. As for now, it seems that Ryan Jacobs or Bennett Hayter is the most likely to do so, and for that, Bennett has the best starting position. Now, we're currently being booted back into the lobby, so after that, we will wait for all the settings to be reset, and then our drivers to all ready up. So I think in about 3 to 5 minutes, we will be good to go.
Yeah, going to be an interesting one here. I think it's 26 laps, if my memory serves me correct as well, of racing we will get here tonight. Whether we're going to be seeing green flag racing throughout all of that, I think probably not. I expect we're going to see at least a safety car at some point, which could spice the strategy up as well. Might change things for a couple of drivers, maybe opting for an extra pit stop for some fresh tyres. But yeah, definitely going to be an interesting one as we get things ready.
Yeah, so indeed we'll have 26 laps that will drive on tonight. Maybe some of the drivers that think, hey, there's going to be a very early safety car, that they're going to gamble on softs for the first stint. I don't think they're going to do that. Would be very cool to see nonetheless, if anyone would try to do so. In the meantime, I think while we wait for everyone to ready up, we'll take a good look at the calendar, so you know which races are still coming up in this wonderful season 42, with, for at least as far as I can remember, a first in the season that I've been casting, no Silverstone calendar this season. But the calendar that we do have, last week, of course, we were in Barcelona, Spain. Tonight, we are in the streets of Baku in Azerbaijan. Next week, we go to Spielberg in Austria before taking a break week. Then we move on to Texas, the Circuit of the Americas, round 4. Then it's Zandvoort, round 5 in the Netherlands, before moving over to Interlagos, Brazil, round 6. Then it's Singapore, the street circuit, the second street circuit of the calendar, before moving to Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, round 8. Then it's Abu Dhabi, the Yas Marina circuit, and finally the Jeddah Corniche Street Circuit in Saudi Arabia. The Jeddah race will be our season finale, and hopefully also, Josh, our championship decider.
Yeah, hopefully things do make their way all the way to the final round of the season. I'm just seeing our lobby host has readied up as well, so should be heading very slowly but surely towards the grid. Probably a couple more minutes and then we'll be able to get things underway here tonight. But yeah, Raphael on pole position. It's quite a short run down towards the first corner as well, so assuming he gets an alright start, I expect, hoping to hold the lead towards that first corner.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard to go for some overtakes in the first corner. Perhaps after your second corner on that back straight, it's going to be a lot easier to go for some overtakes, especially a little bit further down the field. But if someone's feeling risky, feeling dicey, trying to move into turn 1 could already end in tears. And that is something you really need to be careful with here. There is a lot of space to go for overtakes, especially in the early stages, but it's so easy to put yourself or your opponent into the wall here, ending one or both races. So be careful that does not happen. Yeah, drivers to watch for, of course, our pole sitter Rafael Kuntz. He was already quite fast in the last race. Couldn't just hang in with the top drivers that were in a DRS train of their own. But seeing how close he was to it, definitely a driver to keep a lookout for. Same thing can be said, of course, about Bennett Hayter, who was on the podium last week out and will be eyeing that lead in the championship, still held by Oliver Knott. As for Ryan Jacobs, he'll have some overtaking to do because he's starting a bit further down than he would have liked. So we're currently now in the lobby, and it looks like, Josh, it's a little cloudy out there in the back, but I don't think anything that we should worry about for now.
Yeah, unfortunately, we won't be able to see the weather forecast until we actually start the race, I believe. Of course, the drivers will be able to see. I might have a quick look and see if I can see on anybody's streams potentially. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a dry race, which is sort of what we would expect. And that's just going to make things relatively straightforward for everybody, I'd say.
Yeah, indeed. I'm currently just sending out a message to the group chat. I see that the sponsor board in pit lane still shows season 41 while we're, of course, in season 42. I'll make sure to do that as soon as the race is underway and all the drivers have gotten a good start out there. And let's see if I can catch anything in pit lane that catches my eye. It doesn't seem to be like it, so we'll be able to get ready for the race. I'll be putting us over to the full race view because the race should be getting started in any moment now. And when the drivers have their setups lined up, we're going to look at those beautiful 5 red lines. I wonder how that starting procedure is going to change next season with the new iteration of cars and also in the real world, because it looks like the starting sequence is going to take a little bit longer with that turbo coming into play. But for tonight, nothing to worry about yet, and as soon as we go over, it will be 5 red lights until we are off.
Yeah, gonna be an interesting one here. 26 laps of the Baku City circuit, as we said earlier on. Aston Martin on pole position. Whether he will be able to hold on to that one, as we said as well, quite difficult to overtake in the train with a long DRS straight up at the front. Things not going to be too hard, but I'll hand it over now as we've got the lights coming on.
And with 5 red lights on, stay on for an awful lot of time, but away we go with a good start on the outside for Rafael Kuntz. And he's going to hang on to the lead, but around the outside, Lawrence Patton wants to make a move onto Bennett Haders. We have a yellow in Sector 3, of course, that is just before the start really comes through. We have now everyone trying to make their way through into Turn 2. It's almost 3 cars wide heading on to that second straight as Tom Wolfgram. Oh, I see some parts flying. I think Tom Wolfgram was caught up in that a little bit. I think he's missing a front wing end plate, and he is missing. Oh, it's a big pile up in Turn 3, and it's Spezzi who's out of the race. This surely is a safety car, although I can't see it confirmed by the game just yet, aside from the fact that it's a safety car. There we go. No, virtual safety car. What?
Just a virtual safety car, yeah. Unfortunately, yes, Spezzi just going deep there. Quite a few drivers getting caught up. Tom 97 missing his entire wing. Casper as well getting caught up in that. I think Tom Wolfram also involved in that one. But there you can see our top 8, no positions changing. Further behind though, quite a few drivers making some positions. Alessandro Finn down 5. Spezzi, of course, out of the race. He is down 9 positions as well. And actually, I've just seen the safety car has now come out, so it has been upgraded to a full safety car. So that is going to help the likes of Tom 97, who picked up some wing damage, and I did see a couple other drivers picking up some damage. While Formula Kai lost an end plate on the straight heading down towards Turn 3 on the opening lap, as did D'Amico. There was a couple drivers, I think, picking up wing damage on that opening lap, but that will give them an opportunity to come in for a pit stop, fix their front wings, and effectively put themselves onto a 2-stop strategy here to the end of the race. As for tyre talk, Giovanni was the only driver in the end who opted for the hard compound tyres to start this race. Everybody else going for the mediums. So the strategy left pretty open, and with the safety car as well, I think pretty much going to neutralise things as we make our way through.
In the meantime, we saw that Casper left the session, and after leaving the session got a 10-second time penalty for ignoring yellow flags. So the AI is doing a great job. Rafael, race leader, is in pit lane, and a lot more drivers are following in. I was not expecting him to dive into pit lane straight away, but I think he's going to go for a hard setup now so that he can push a little bit more without worrying about that tire life. And it looks like a lot more drivers are following him. Only the top 6 drivers staying out. Marziano is now a race leader ahead of Gabriel Moya. Giovanni Galeotto out on the hards, of course, he will stay out. Nando Moreira, Pesci, and Alessandro Finn stayed out. As for Pesci, he apologized to Spezzi in the chat, so it looks like he was involved in that incident. Kasper Jadrejczyk is now also rejoining after having served that penalty, but of course, because we have that safety car, that penalty is not going to matter, although I'm pretty sure he'll be wondering, why on earth did I get a penalty? And to be fair, I wonder the same thing.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure exactly what happened. I did see a couple swaps in the timing tower. It looked like his AI might have overtaken Tom 97 or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, interesting strategy to see so many drivers coming into the pits on the opening lap. I'm surprised that the likes of Rafael, who was leading this race, chose to take that gamble. I mean, imagine if he was the only driver who had pitted. He went onto those hards and came out all the way down in P19. That would have been a horrible position to be in, I guess. I mean, he's very fortunate that only 6 drivers have stayed out here, because it's not a massive loss, and he's going to have an effective tyre advantage, I think, all the way through this race now, to help himself out and potentially carry himself to a victory tonight.
Yeah, that will be the main thing, as we see that Casper has once again left the session, so he might have some connection issues, although of course during the safety car that is not his biggest problem. In the meantime, we see Rafael's almost caught up with the queue on front, at the front, as he's now slowing down a little bit on that long flat out section. As we look further down the line, there's a bit of a gap to Formula Kai in 15th. And as soon as that gap closes in, we can be looking at when the safety car is going to be coming back in. But seeing how the gaps have emerged, I do think that perhaps at the end of this lap, we already see the safety car come into pit lane.
Yeah, I think it ultimately just comes down to whether Kasper can get control of his car and catch up. But with how slow they're going to be making their way through the middle sector, I think there's quite a decent chance that we will be green for the start of lap number 4. something else that the drivers are going to have to worry about, of course, especially the drivers who have been at the front of this pack behind the safety car for a long time already. Tyre temperature is going to be quite tricky, as I think someone's gone off. Formula Kai down off at turn 1 under the safety car has just lost quite a few positions. And yeah, I'm not exactly sure what is going on here between himself and Tom97. Swapping positions here, maybe one of them picking up an illegal overtake there, but it looks like they've got things sorted out now, and they'll be able to continue on their way. But yeah, not great for the McLaren driver, losing out on a couple positions there. I don't think he picked up any damage though, and that is going to be the big point for him. But yeah, just going back to what I was saying, tyre temperature. Their tyres are going to be very, very cold, especially the drivers, which is now most of them on the hard compound tyres. You're probably going to need an extra 5 or so degrees to get them up to temperature into their optimal operating window. You could be looking at quite a big loss of grip, and when you're heading down towards a heavy braking zone like turn 1, you've got quite a few heavy braking zones in that first sector as well. It's not going to be a great situation heading in with some cold tyres.
No, indeed it isn't, as we saw Formula Kai demonstrate that with him going off in turn 1. I think he clipped the barrier because he's lost his entire front wing with that mistake. And it looks like he's now at least slowing down enough so that the race doesn't restart. And indeed, we have not gotten a notification that the safety car is going to be in at the end of this lap, which means that he can now take another pit stop, change that front wing, and then look to catch up. So we'll be racing a little bit later than we were first anticipating. It's a very odd mistake behind the safety car. I think he was just warming up his tires and lost control of the car in turn 1. Turn 1, one of the easier corners to lose the car in. Although most cases you come through nicely, but yeah, those barriers can come awfully close if you go in just a little bit too hard.
Yeah, I do have to say, not only is this going to help Formula Kai, because he'll be able to make his pit stop and change speed, I think it's also going to help the likes of the drivers up at the front who have chosen to stay out, which includes Formula Kai's teammate, who is currently leading this race. It's less laps that the drivers are going to have to do out there on these tyres, effectively less laps that they would have to be saving tyres, more pushing able to be done, which kind of nullifies the advantage that the drivers who have pitted to do that hard strategy will be gaining. Could still potentially put them in a decent position now that they have the track position.
Yeah, it could definitely help them indeed, but the big question is the drivers that are staying out, if they can just fully send it out there with that one stopper that they need to do, or if they are hoping for more safety car incidents that's going to give them more opportunities to join the pack in a 2-stop. I think overall though for Rafael it was a very tough call to make, whether to go in at the end of lap 1, switch to the hards, but I think all in all he made a great call not to at least lose time to his main race and championship competitors, because Bennett Hader came in as well, Ryan Jacobs also came in, Jonas Orpel came in, Takubi came in, Lawrence Patton, who's just ahead of him in the standings, also came in. So great move on his behalf, and with the other drivers just following suit.
Yeah, well, I think now the safety car is going to be forced in once we do get to the end of this sector. Formula Kai just making his way through turn 13 now, so shouldn't be too much longer. In fact, he will catch up in this braking zone. So it's all down to Marius at the front of the field to back the pack up, try and get as much temperature into his tyres ready for this restart, and then he's got to try and build a gap over all 18 remaining cars behind him, and the first of which, the Sauber of Gabriel Moya, going to be his biggest challenge down towards turn 1.
Yeah, so he is still weaving quite a bit now, warming up his tires, and that's the issue with this game too. You can't start too early, because that means the game is going to hold you back, so you have to wait quite a bit and go on the power either when they don't expect it or as late as possible. Now he's off, and away he is, and he gets a nice gap onto Gabriel Moy. I don't think he has to worry about any overtakes, but Pesci awfully close to the Aston Martin up ahead. He's not going to put his car alongside it just yet, but he's very close to the back of Neto Moreira as Jonas Orpel is already trying to battle it out with Ryan Jacobs for P11. Ryan now on the inside, trying to get past the Ferrari, and he seems to be momentarily ahead, but it's a big fight there. Look at how close they are, but Ryan using just a little bit more battery power. Oh, he has to brake! He brakes so early that Jonas was caught off guard, and thankfully for Jonas, I don't think there's front wing end plate damage. He's missing both front wing end plates. I'm not sure if it was with this contact, but that was some very early braking by Ryan Jacobs. There's one missing.
While we were watching this, both Alpines going side by side, that's costing them time, but crucially also costing all the drivers who have made those pit stops time as well. Already, Giovanni has dropped 1.5 seconds, and the two Alpines almost dropping a second as well. Quite big gaps forming as we make our way through the castle section. Now everybody gonna expand their gaps a little bit as they try and follow as close as they can. And now we see who has the best straight line speed, who has saved up some battery, and who is going to be brave enough to go on the attack down towards turn 1.
Yeah, if we look at the gaps, it looks like Gabriel Moya is at least closest to Marius Ioanu, but he does not have to worry about the DRS just yet. That will come into play in the next lap. Demaiko, though, is awfully close to Takubi for P14. So let's go on board with Demaiko. Look at that. He's already trying to find a position where he can put this car alongside. He does put alongside, as in the meantime, Gabriel Moya has actually overtaken Marius Ioanu for the race lead. So he did have that overspeed, but we weren't really expecting him to be able to make a move. Demaiko has managed to make his move stick, and Rafael Kuntz, on the other hand, who was our pole sitter, is still behind both of the Alpines. Alessandro Finn is his first target.
It's going to be tricky to overtake in the train as everybody just trying to find the best line they can possibly make through these corners, carry as much speed. Dennis Gomenci getting very impatient, sitting in this train as well, keeps looking
Another safety car
around, looking. Oh yeah, we got a VSC. What has happened here?
I think there was an incident with the overtake of Formula Car in Tom 97. Tom 97 is indeed missing his entire front wing, so there must have been contact when Formula Car went for that overtake. But yeah, I think we've already seen quite a bit of yellow here tonight, and I fear, Josh, this won't be the last time.
No, with 5 safety cars and I think 2 virtual safety cars as the limit, if we see like a lap of VSC from each of those and 2 or 3 laps of safety car each time around, we could be sitting theoretically a maximum of like 15 laps under the yellow flags, which does mean we'll still get about 10 or so laps of racing nonetheless. But it is going to make things quite interesting if we are sitting in these yellow flag conditions, effectively running at 40% of the pace, the tyres constantly cooling down. It's going to make the strategy interesting, I think, as well. When do you make those pit stops? We are coming down towards the pit lane, but it doesn't look like anybody will make their way into the pit lane this time around. But yeah, interesting stuff as we do go green now. I think we could be seeing some potential moves. Jonas Orpel already close, heading in towards the first corner.
Yeah, very close to the back of Ryan Jacobs. Ryan overtook him in the previous lap just before we had that virtual safety car. Tom 97 now in pit lane to get that front wing changed. But he's going to be on the back foot until we see a safety car come in. In the meantime, Dennis Kaminsky wants to make the move onto Jonas Orpel, trying to go round the outside in turn 4. Side by side they go indeed. Leave each other enough space. They just do so. And the Red Bull is through on the Ferrari. Well, not fully. He seems to be ahead. Now he is through indeed. That's another position lost for Jonas Orpel, who's now in P13. And immediately has to watch his rearview mirrors because the next Red Bull of Demaiko is already looming and looking to go for an overtaking opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it really shows how back and forth the battles can be as you make your way through this twisty middle part of the track. One moment it looks like one car's ahead, the next moment the other has the inside line into that corner and they're edging themselves back ahead, and then it's swapping around corner after corner. definitely can make some exciting battles if you can stay side by side, but it is going to be quite tricky for the drivers to stay side by side, especially with the dirty air. But out of the final corner we go, running down towards turn 1 once again. Quite big margins up at the front of the field.
Quite big margins indeed, but the margin that is not so big is the margin that Alessandro Finn has on Rafael Kunz. And look at that, powering down the main straight, setting the new fastest lap. And around the outside he overtakes Ryan Jacobs, now goes a tad quicker than him. But Rafael's managed to dispatch one of the Alpines, and I think he realizes with the front starting to get away, he has to make those overtakes now if he wants to have any hopes of still winning this race here, because Gabriel has a nice 1.2 second cushion to the drivers behind, as I see Bennett Hayter now fighting tooth to nail with Alessandro Finn. He's on the inside now, braking awfully late to get through, and he's managed to get through, and that's opened up the door for Lawrence Patton as well, who's now awfully close to the back of Alessandro Finn. But there doesn't seem to be a moment where he can really go for an overtake here, as the track here is just too tight.
Yeah, unfortunate to get stuck behind in the middle part of the lap here for Lawrence. Gonna have to wait, I think, pretty much, unless he can try and make a move down this next straight. He's just hit the wall on the inside there, so that's gonna cost him quite a bit of time here. So yeah, it looks like if he can get close once again, it's going to be an opportunity down towards turn 1 for Lawrence, although he is under pressure as well from Invasizo behind, who was looking to try and capitalise on the mistake of the Mercedes driver. But no move coming there that time around. Rafael once again looking to put the pressure on, looking to potentially make some moves into turn 1.
Yeah, and he might make that move well before, because he's already alongside and now ahead of Pesci. Both of the Alpines have been dispatched. Next target, his teammate Nando Moreira in P4. Well, it looks like the hard tires are now quite a bit quicker, as Inversizo wants to make a move onto Lawrence Patton. He managed to get the move, but look at the switchback from Lawrence Patton, who's now back ahead. That is some great defending, and one of the better switchbacks you will see this season.
Yeah, just a little bit too deep for Invasizo. Couldn't quite get the car stopped, and it opened the door for the Mercedes driver. Here comes the Haas once again down the inside in towards turn number 3, and there's a bit of contact there. Just about keeping it out of the barrier. Invasizo through ahead of Lawrence Patton now, but that very nearly ended in disaster there for the pair of them.
Yeah, that felt like a do-or-die move there. I think Lawrence will have to say something about that after the race ends. But we're still in lap 9 of 26. A long way to go. Spezzi's now left the session. Of course, he's already out of the race since lap 1. And now it's key for Lawrence to try and get back at Inver and go for more overtakes, because Alessandro will have to be dispatched as soon as possible. Rafael, in the meantime, has caught up through sectors 1 and 2 to his teammate. He's now less than 4/10 away, and he's looking to go for another overtake on that main straight, as Marius and Giovanni have actually caught up with race leader Gabriel Moya, making that great news for everyone behind that has made a pit stop.
Yeah, should be a nice straightforward move here for Rafael with the DRS from his teammates, and hopefully going to slingshot him a little bit closer to the cars up at the front. Giovanni is going to go for second place though, gets himself through ahead of the McLaren driver. There's quite a few swaps happening here as Pesci into the pits here on lap number 10 off of his medium tyres. Should be towards the end of the race now on this set of hard tyres now.
And it seems to be quite an early pit stop for him to already go for it. But of course, this means that he can try and make an undercut work, as we have yellow in sector 3. That's for Takubi, who is DNF'd. Has he DNF'd in pit lane, or what has happened?
Yes, he's retired in the pits.
Okay, he just retired normally in the pits. Okay, that is at least good to hear that there weren't any mistakes involved in that part, as it looks like Bennett Hayter, Inversizo, and both ahead of Alessandro Finn. Inversizo's just managed to make that move stick. Ryan Jacobs has also gotten the jump onto Lawrence Patton. He's now up into P9, with Alessandro Finn being his next target. As for Rafael, he's within 4/10 of Mario Sioano up ahead. So I think once again we should be looking at Rafael, because every lap he seems to be picking up or picking off one driver and just doing it one lap after another until in 3 laps time he will hopefully, for his sake, be leading the race.
Yeah,
Oh,
yellow
Tom.
flags out in sector 1. Tom 97 just going a little bit deeper at turn 4, had to reverse it back out. No damage done to the car though, so he can continue on his way. And the battle up at the front. Raphael once again right on the back of Marius, could be looking for the podium position here now as we head down towards turn 1. And I think he's actually just had a bit of a screen freeze potentially. He just dropped quite a way back into the pits. Does come Marius now. So going to take off those medium compound tyres. Giovanni now taking the lead of the race. But a bit of a peculiar moment there as Raphael losing quite a bit of time on the start-finish straight there.
Yeah, seemed to be losing a bit of time there. He's over a second away now behind Gabriel Moya, and Bennett Hayter, on the other end, has managed to catch up with him, as they are, of course, 2 drivers that have gone for those early pit stops after the lap 1 safety car. If we look at the tires, most of the tire lives are actually the same for Giovanni Galeotto. Actually, this is amazing news because he started on the hards, remember. All the other drivers behind him that have gone for pit stops are only on 1 lap fresher hards, and they're all behind him. So for Giovanni, this strategy could work wonders. But the thing is, he has to go for a set of mediums, whereas the other drivers, I think, are just going to do 2 shorter stints on the hards and try to leapfrog him in that sense. But yeah, with, let me go down a little bit with, well, Marius went for quite an early pit stop. The same kind of, yeah, it was Pesci went for the early pit stop. That's why Marius has now followed him. And I think that's going to push Gabriel and maybe Nando to do the same thing. Same thing maybe as well for Alessandro Finn. In the meantime, Rafael is again close to the back of Gabriel as he wants to continue that streak of making an overtake a lap. Looks like he's managed to do so. Giovanni has now pulled away quite significantly. And for Rafael, this is going to be his first real fight with a driver and tires pretty much the same age as Nando indeed comes into pit lane.
Yeah, pretty much all of those pit stops now done for the drivers who did stay out. Just Giovanni and Gabriel Moya up at the front yet to make those pit stops, so they continue on their way. And the chase now begins. They've got about a 17-second gap that they need to close to the leaders of this race if they want to get themselves into contention. Of course, they're going to have significantly fresher tyres, but potentially no more pit stops left to do for those drivers up at the front. If they can hang on, defend well, they could be in for a very strong result. Of course, there's a lot of overtakes that would need to be made for the likes of Marius. He's got to overtake 12 cars if he wants to get to the victory here tonight.
Yeah, but of course quite a few cars ahead of him went for that early pit stop. They're not going to finish the race on those hards. They will be coming in again. So pretty much everyone that is now ahead of him will be ending up behind him as soon as they go for pit stops. In the meantime, I want to give a quick shout out to our championship leader, Oliver Knott, who is watching the race from his holiday, if I'm not mistaken, as I thought I just saw a front wing, at least part of a front wing, laying out on track there. I wonder who might have lost a front wing end plate.
I think keep an eye out. It's our race leader, Giovanni, missing his end plate. He's picked up some damage at some point. Not sure whether that is the end plate, but the right end plate missing for the Haas driver.
Gabriel's also missing one.
Time. Yes, I think it's something we're going to come to expect. Quite a few drivers going to be missing pieces of their wings here. As yeah, Gabriel into the pits, as is Jonas. Lawrence D'Amico also coming in on this lap. I think, as we're seeing now, quite a few drivers going to be making pit stops here. Let's see how things play out, how they unfold. It is a wing change for Gabriel Moya. That is going to be quite costly for him. An extra 5 seconds in the box, and as a result comes out behind the Ferrari of Jonas Oppel. And quite a way down the order, lost out on quite a few positions in the end.
Yeah, of course, Gabriel, one of the drivers that just made their first pit stop. As for Lawrence and Jonas, it's already their second pit stop. But look at that, Gabriel is already getting quite close to the back of that Ferrari. Although, of course, he knows that this second stint is still long. 13 laps, 14 to be precise, actually, still remain in this race, as Rafael's now managed to get within a second of the race leader Giovanni Galeotto. Giovanni now the only car out there on track that has not made a pit stop yet. All the other drivers have done so for now. As we can see, Marios actually has caught up quite nicely already with the drivers up ahead, getting within 3 seconds of Jesper Jadrzejczyk in P8. Gaps are not as big as I was expecting. The main gap that is quite big, though, is the gap between Rafael Kuntz and Bennett Hayter, because that is over 2 seconds, and that's quite a bit more than it was a couple laps ago.
Yep. Well, let's see.
Rafael's in.
Yeah, into the pits. So now things are going to get interesting to see where he's going to come out relative to the rest of the pack. Indeciso in the Haas also coming into the pits. But we've got Giovanni with a damaged wing staying out up at the front of the field. Yet to make a pit stop. He'll have to go to a set of the medium tyres. That would explain why he's staying out so long. He's probably looking at around lap 16 for his pit stop. But through the first corner, Rafael is coming out behind Pesci and behind Marius as well. So he's lost a couple of positions in this set of the pit stops. Crucially, though, not dropped too far behind that he won't be able to recover.
Yeah, and this is the great news for Marius, who's gone for the undercut. He stopped a few laps before, but he now has a 4-second cushion over on Rafael Kuntz. And remember, Giovanni also has to come in. He's going to go for mediums in his second and last stint. But it's going to be also tough for him as well to catch up with Marius. So Marius definitely an outsider for the race win here tonight after his early first pit stop. He's only made 1 pit stop. If we look at the other drivers, Giovanni, of course, still has to come in. Bennett Hayter is going to come in as well. Ryan Jacobs will do the same. Kasper Jadrzejczyk will do so as well. Marius and Pesci do not have to stop unless they want to. Rafael, of course, has gone for 2 already. Nando's gone for his stop. And all the drivers behind have gone for their pit stops. So yeah, those we don't have to watch out for. It's just the top 4 that is definitely still going to come in for another pit stop. And Marius has it all to lose at this point with a nice, now 4.5 seconds lead over Pesci, who's losing time to him. And Rafael is not getting past him just yet.
Yep, well, a couple more cars coming into the pits as well. Bennett Hyder, Ryan Jacobs making their pit stops now. And down towards turn 1, no moves coming this time around. Rafael, though, going to be getting eager to make some moves very, very soon. Pesci, the car in front of him, he's in that DRS range. Maybe a chance into this next corner if he has got the battery saved up for an overtake potentially.
Yeah, now Bennett here has come back out. He's just ahead of Tom Wolfgram. He's not going to be overtaken on that back straight. But in that sense, he only has to overtake Inversizo and Nando Moreira just to get back towards the back of Rafael Kuntz, where he was before. But of course, lost quite a bit more time. He's now 5 seconds away from Rafael. Quite a gap that he has to overcome. In the meantime, Marius is also starting to get stuck behind Kasper Jadrzejczyk, who is in P2. And with him now being in that middle sector, it will be hard to overtake him. Likely will have to wait till that long start-finish straight, those 2 kilometers, before he can finally make the move. Giovanni still holds a memorable lead, a commanding lead in that sense, but he will have to stop for the mediums in a moment, as it looks like Tom 97 had another moment down in turn 4.
Yeah, I believe before the race he said it was one of his worst tracks coming in towards this one. So unfortunately, things coming very much true for the V-Carb driver. Not really going his way tonight, picking up damage a couple of times and a couple of mistakes as well. Could be seeing a move up at the front here, though. Here comes the McLaren of Marius through with the DRS and up into second place as Rafael also following Pesci through as well, and also Nando. Both Aston Martins making the move on the Alpine driver in towards the first corner. Crucial moment there for the pair of them.
Yeah, and this also shows that Nando has gotten the strategy nailed down to the wire too, because he was quite a few positions behind Rafael, as we now have a yellow. Alessandro Finn has retired from the session. I think he might have had an incident somewhere in turn 1. Let's see if we can actually see what has happened. We, of course, can't switch over to him, and Tom97's too far away. But with him retiring from the session, we have to hope, for most of the drivers at least, the safety car is not going to come. On the other hand, for Giovanni, this would be great news because he still has to make his pit stop and has an 8-second lead onto Marius. But that gap is coming down quite fast. It's been dwindling down because that gap was over 9 seconds just before Marius went for that overtake on Casper. So I think within a lap, well, this or next lap, he's going to come in for the mediums. Look at that. He is already losing 2 seconds in that middle sector alone. The other driver's so much faster than him. As for Rafael, he's almost caught up with Casper. That gap was 3.5 seconds, now 1.7. But I think he needs another lap before he can make that overtake stick.
Yep. Well, things gonna start to get interesting. If he were to make a pit stop, he'd probably come out within the top 10 positions at the moment, so not too bad in the grand scheme of things. Rafael already massively closing in on Casper, who does actually come into the pit lane now, so that's going to free up some clean air for the Aston Martin driver. As Pesci just getting, I think, overtaken by Inversizzo. Going to be a set of the hard compound tyres on for the Mercedes driver. That should nice and comfortably get him to the end of the race.
Yeah, and given the fact that the pit lane time loss is not all that big, I do think that Giovanni's going to come out round around the zone of Bennett Hayter and Gabriel Moya. He's going to be on the fresh medium, so he'll be flying through the field. I think he has a very good shot at making it to P3, maybe even P2, and then the gap to Marius is going to be 3 seconds, so that is going to be the tough ask here tonight. And Nando is still within shout of a distance of Rafael. Rafael's 3 seconds down to Marius, but that gap has been coming down a bit as well. That was 4 seconds just 4 laps ago, so he's cutting that down a little bit, but not as much as he would like to. Pesci's still ahead of Bennett Hayter. Bennett has not been able to go for the overtake just yet, but I think we have to look at the race leader, Giovanni, because surely he's going to come in at the end of this lap.
Yeah, just speaking about Pesci, unfortunately, as you said, his name, he's just hit the wall in the castle section and picked up some front wing damage. So things going to become that little bit trickier for the Alpine driver who's currently running with some of the oldest tyres of the lot. Let's see, is it going to be a pit stop? Yes, it is, for the Haas of Giovanni. So just missing that wall there as he made his way into the pits as well. Very nearly could have been race over. Marius will take the lead of this race. 7-lap-old tyres versus Rafael's 4-lap-old tyres. That gap is slowly coming down though up at the front of the field. Mediums for Giovanni. What can he do? A lot of traffic here that is just flying past, unfortunately. Maybe a lap too late. Just look how many positions he has just lost here. Heading in towards turn 2. He's going to be side by side with Formula Guy, trying to make it up the inside. Will have those medium tyres, but they're not going to be up to temperature just yet. Going to be battling all the way in towards the next braking zone as Gabriel Moya also getting past Pesci, but down the inside Giovanni makes that move stick, just about almost hitting the barrier on the outside. He's still carrying that damage from the first stint as well. I'm not so sure whether he's going to cut his way through the field like he might be hoping. Just about struggling to squeeze past with Kai here, can't make the move in the end. Unfortunately, Giovanni having to settle in behind. That wing damage, I think, gonna be the nail in the coffin, unfortunately, for the Haas driver.
Yeah, strategy was quite on point there. I do think he stopped just a lap too late, because had he stopped a lap earlier, I think he would have been ahead of Tom Wolfgram in P8, and then you're in a nice zone, because we are expecting him to come out around the places of Moya and Hayter, and he would have come out there had he stopped a lap before, but because the drivers are also close in the midfield, he's now gone all the way to the back of that queue and has to overtake all of them with front wing end plate damage. And that is going to be a very tough ask, because in the meantime, Inversizzo has gone for the overtake onto Nando Moreira. So Inversizzo is now our new third place sitter, as Ryan Jacobs has gone past Lawrence Patton. Tom Wolfgram has also overtaken Pesci. But for most of our championship competitors, Josh, it's not been a great race. The only driver that's really stuck out so far is Bennett Hayter in P5, but not as many points as he would have liked.
Yeah, unfortunate stuff. I think things going from bad to worse for Pesci. He's just hit the wall again, I think getting pinched in, and he is backing off quite heavily, letting all of the cars go through. Unfortunately, I think this might be very much race over. Giovanni is now through. There's more contact ahead, I think, as well as the drivers continue to battle away. Mercedes versus Red Bull as they make their way through the chicane here. Heading towards the castle section, not likely to see too much more side-by-side action from these guys until we make our way through to the start-finish straight. Keeping an eye on that gap up at the front as well. Rafael is continuing to close in on Marius. Not going to be too many more laps before we start to see some fighting between those two on the track, I think.
Yeah, that's when it's also going to become interesting. What are they going to do? Are they going to be fighting and allowing Inversizo, Nando Moreira, and in a sense, Bennett Hayter and Gabriel Moya to come within a shout and within DRS range of them? Or is Marios, as soon as Rafael catches up, just going to wave him through, play the DRS game, and then try and go for some battles in the final few laps, hoping to still get a race win out there, if not a P2? Because I think that might be the better opportunity here. He's likely going to lose the fight with Rafael, who is on fresher tires. I wonder about how much. Let's actually take a look. What's only 3 laps? It's not that much. But I think for now, Marius just needs to make sure that Rafael doesn't get within a second of him. But with that gap already 1.5, I think it's going to be 1 or 2 more laps until Rafael is within DRS range.
Yeah, I mean, last time around, Rafael was 9/10 of a second faster on the previous lap. As it stands, that would very comfortably put himself within the DRS. So, all things pointing towards a Rafael victory, unless maybe we see a bit of battling between these two, and Inversizo can rock up on the scene as well. He's also got 6-lap-old hard tyres, the same as Rafael, and then it would just come down to who has saved their tyres the best. But this is the merging of the two strategies coming up very, very soon. The drivers who pitted under that first safety car versus the drivers who chose to stay out.
Yeah, and I think if we look at it now in hindsight, I think actually staying out was the better option, as Mario's so shows. He stayed out. He was a little bit further down the grid. Well, he was in P5, and he's now still ahead of then race leader and pole sitter Rafael Kunz. But yeah, that gap now 1.0. He's almost within DRS range, and I think by the start of the next lap, well, there he is. He already is within a second. And now the key thing starts to appear. He can now use that slipstream. He already has DRS, actually. He just got in there in time. And that is going to allow him to extend his gap over Inversizo, which is now 2.1 seconds. But when can Rafael go for the overtake? I think he wants to do it as soon as possible, meaning he will need to do so now, because this second zone is here from turn 2 all the way down to turn 3. Can he get close enough to already go for an overtake? It looks to be too far, especially he's retired from the race. It is too far indeed. So for now, Rafael stays behind. Next time he can try the start-finish straight.
Yeah, lap 21 of 26. The time is slowly going to be starting to run out. And this lap going to be a crucial one for Inversizo, as the gap currently sits at 1.7 seconds. If he can close that margin in this middle sector, that could really change the shape of this race, as we've got more swapping of positions. Denis Kamensky in their contact with Jonas Orpel as the Ferrari losing the rear, almost going round and losing several positions, drops behind Giovanni now, unfortunately. And as it stands, outside of the points as well.
Yeah, for Giovanni, not the way it's going as he would have liked. I think with that stop a lap earlier, he could have had a much better race out there. But he's still within 3/10 of Ryan Jacobs ahead. He can see the points, he can smell them too. But can he obtain them? That is the main question. We are at the end now of lap 21 of 26. Once we cross the start-finish line, it will be 5 laps to go. And Giovanni is very close to the back of that Racing Bull. But can he make that overtake stick despite having that wing damage? Marius has actually lost the race lead now onto Rafael Inversizo and Bennett Hayter will now be battling next, as Bennett Hayter has gone past Nando Moreira. But here comes Giovanni. Ryan has already gone for an overtake. Giovanni wants to do the same onto Lawrence. Sends it down the inside. Side by side they still go. But looks like he is ahead. And Lawrence had to back out just a little bit there.
Yep, unfortunate stuff in the end for the Mercedes driver. Can't quite hang on there, but the battle up at the front going to be getting very close very soon. Inversizo almost getting some DRS there, is further behind. Kasper also looking for a bit of a dive on the Red Bull of Jamaica. Not quite working out, but he's still looking to try and stick the nose up the inside. As we come towards the end of this race, I mean, the lap's running out. At some point, you've just got to send it and hope that it sticks. But yeah, that fight for the win maybe slipping away a little bit for Inversizo. 1.1 seconds as it stands to Marius. This definitely could still be a very strong strategy for the McLaren driver, all starting off by staying out under that initial safety car.
Yeah, now we're going to quickly tune back to the front of the grid, because Rafael Kunz, Marius Ioanu, that gap is almost a second now. Marius fighting as hard as he can to stay within a second. He's now lost that second, but instead Inversizo has gone within a second of him, and so has Bennett Hayter, who is 6/10 away from Inversizo in turn. So they will be fighting with Marius for that final podium position. I think Rafael is going to be gone with the wind, and his strategy is going to pay off in the end. But how much will Marius be able to fight? Can he keep Inver and Bennett behind, or will he be looking to go for some re-overtakes? Nando Moreira seems to be too far behind in 5th. So whatever the strategy comes now, Marius is likely going to at least gain some places to where he started. He's still 3 ahead. Hayter's down by 2. Inversizo is already up 1. He's had a great race so far. Tom Ingram also having a great race with 9 positions gained. Nando, same thing, 9 places gained. As for Ryan Jacobs, now overtaken by Giovanni Galiotto, it's not the race he was hoping for. And with only 1 point, he's still going to be behind 4 points in the championship, behind Oliver Knott. But Oliver Knott is likely going to be overtaken by Rafael, because he already had points in race 1. So that means Rafael, if things end as they are now, will be your new championship leader.
Yeah, well, only a handful of laps left to go for this one to be decided. Just got to keep the nose clean, keep the pace up, and things should be looking very nice indeed. Inversizo will be looking for the DRS, looking for the overtake to come as well. Got to try and save as much battery as he possibly can for this next straight. Going to be gaining as much time as he possibly can on the McLaren driver. But will it be enough? By the time they reach turn 1, it looks like it's going to be a long, long way back to be closing in from this time around. I think we're going to be looking a little bit more like next time around potentially for a move to come. Is Inversizo actually putting the pressure on? Is going to take that position.
Yeah, and so is Bennett Hayter, who sends it down the inside. So it looks like Marius was a sitting duck after all, and now has to hope he can stay within that DRS window of the drivers up ahead so he can fight them. As Kasper Jędrzejczyk has now retired from the session. That's our 5th retiree of the race, and he's also retired in pit lane, so we won't be seeing any flags come into play for that. We're actually in the final 3 laps, so safety cars will be ruled out from this point forward also. But yeah, the gap ahead for Rafael's now 1.6. Has to keep that above a second to be safe from Inversizo and the likes behind, as Gabriel Moya actually is caught up with Nando Moreira, and that will be a good fight for P5. But I think for Nando, his tires are about to give way, and for Gabriel, his fresher tires will help him go for a potential P5 here tonight in the Kick Sauber.
Well, let's see. We're going to be starting the penultimate lap of this race very, very soon. Anybody going to be able to try and make some late overtakes here on the streets of the Baku city circuit? We've got a Mercedes going slow, I think. That might be the retired AI, actually.
Yeah.
Never mind, in the first sector. But yeah, that gap's staying pretty stable up at the front, 1.5, 1.6 seconds between Rafael and Imsiso. So unless we see a mistake right at the end of this session, I expect that win should be relatively secure. Here comes Bennett Haider as we start the penultimate lap of the race. To take that second place position, Gabriel Moya through up into 5th place as well. Gets the move done nice and easy with the DRS. Once again, another DRS move. Dennis Kamensky through ahead of Tom Wolfgram. A little bit wide on the exit, but keeps it out of the barriers, crucially. P7 at the moment for the Red Bull driver.
Yeah, but our main fight is going to be for P2 and perhaps even for P1, but I think that's going to warrant a mistake from Rafael unless, well, if that doesn't happen, he is going to be driving away, but there's just 2 laps remaining and the overtaking opportunities are dwindling down with that. For Inversizo, he's now 6 tenths behind. Bennett Haider's gap to Rafael is pretty much staying put, so he's not getting too much closer. Though now in the middle sector, he gained a little bit of time and then lost it again, but pretty much the gap stabilizing around 1.6, 1.7, at times 1.5, but not close enough for him to go for any overtakes. Nando Moreira is trying to stay within a second of Gabriel. If he does do so, he can perhaps fight back. For Inversizo, he's going to go for another overtake down that main straight, but that of course plays into Bennett's cards as he wants to go for an overtake in that final lap. And further down, Dennis Kamensky, unless he managed to get a gap over on Tom Wolfgram, will be the next sitting duck, and allowing Tom Wolfgram and perhaps even Ryan Jacobs to fly past.
Well, we're getting ready to start the final lap of this race now, and up at the front of the field, Rafael is still clear, but here comes Inversizo to the inside, in towards Tom, he'll take that position. Is it too early though? Can Bennett make the move on this final lap? Maybe on the run towards
Bennett's
the
made a
start of the
mistake.
final, has he timed it?
I think Bennett's made a slight mistake because he's come out weaving quite a bit. He's not missing any front wing end plays as far as I can see, but lost a little bit more time than he would have liked. Don't know if he can come back at him for now.
Yeah, 7 tenths of a second was the gap, although that has just come down a little bit. He's going to be fighting in this middle sector to try and close the margin. I'm hearing lots of bangs with the balls. The driver's really pushing it on this final lap, trying to battle all the way for those positions. Jonas Orpel, big hit as he battles away with D'Amico through side by side through the first sector. Up at the front, Bennett Haider still 6 tenths of a second off of Inversizo. That gap still going to be tricky to close. But the battle's all up and down the field, coming to an end on this final lap of the race. A 3-second time penalty for Lawrence Batten. That could cost him a chance at points here tonight as well. Right on the cusp. That might be dropping him a couple of positions in the end. Let's see if there's any chance for any moves on this final lap as Rafael makes his way through the final few corners. It's been a nice, calm, controlled drive. He took pole position. It looked pretty safe for him, and now he's going to come home to take victory by about 2 seconds. But further behind, Inversizo versus Bennett Haider. The DRS going to open up now. They're burning all the battery side by side as we run towards the line. And Bennett Haider will take second place as they make their way to the checkered flag. Inversizo comes home in third. Marius will pick up P4 in the end. Gabriel Moya in P5, and then further behind another gaggle of cars running side by side to the line. Ryan Jacobs, Tamish Kamensky side by side as well. Kamensky just missing out in the end. Giovanni only able to recover to P10 in the end. D'Amico in P11, Formula Kai in 12th, Jonas Orpel 13th, and Lawrence Patton dropped to 14th with that time penalty in the end. Tom 97, your final classified driver.
Yeah, now Lawrence is going to get a DNF as well, but of course that is not going to matter too much. Sadly, not picking up many points, and would not have had either if that penalty hadn't come into play. For Ryan Jacobs, is perhaps a little bit disappointing, only finishing in P8, but it's great work from Bennett Haider to recover all the way through, getting that overtake done onto Inversizo at the end. but dominating display from Rafael Kunz, as it seemed like at no point in the race he was really under threat of the drivers behind him, executing his strategy perfectly, going into pit lane, making that bold call to go into pit lane after the safety car in lap 1, and after that never looking back, making the strategy work as perfect as he could. We thought for a second that Giovanni Galeotto might get close, but his front wing end plate damage and the stop just a tad too late doesn't see him go past P10. As Mario Sioanu, another driver that didn't go into pit lane during that safety car sequence, still finishing in P4 and picking up some nice points there. The big gainers are Nando Moreira and Tom Wolfgram. Nando finishing P6 after starting in P14, and for Tom Wolfgram finishing 6th. He started in P15 then because he gained 9 places, so great race from him as well. Wonder if I said it well, or if it was P7. But yeah, in the end, Rafael, the big winner out there. We see the podium celebrations. He is going to get no, he's not going to get the driver of the day. That is going to go, of course, to Nando Moreira, who finished in 6th. And yeah, for Tom Wolfgram, it was P7. Now, rounding off your top 10 with Ryan Jacobs in 8th, Dennis Kamensky in P9, and as mentioned, Giovanni Galeotto in 10th. But the drivers that we might be hearing from soon will be our top 3. So, Rafael Kunz race winner, Bennett Hayter in 2nd, and Inversizo a P3 for him. Let's see if we can hear from them later on during some interviews.
Yeah, well, what a race we have had here in the end. We had a couple safety cars to open things up, and in the end, defining the strategy for the race. Ultimately, Rafael making that correct call to pit from the lead at the end of the first lap for a set of those hard compound tyres. Works out for him very nicely. In the end, 2.2 seconds was his gap across the line. So yeah, very good job by him in the end. But yeah, I think in the end, actually, it's hard to say what the right strategy was, because obviously we look at the top 3 who all pitted under that safety car at the start. 4th, 5th, and 6th, the next 3 cars, all on the alternative strategy of staying out under that safety car. So it seems maybe if you were a little bit further down, it was better to stay out. But for the drivers up at the front, making the pit stop was the right call for them.
Yeah, it looked like for most of them it was the right call. I think in the end it was quite close to one another, but we could see that with the shorter stints on 2 times hards, you were able to push a little bit more. And yeah, Marios, he was losing quite a bit of time in the latter stages, and it was good news for him. It was fortunate that the other drivers weren't too close to him, otherwise he would have been overtaken more. But yeah, great decision making from Rafael Kunz, who had 6 points to his name as well. 5 points, sorry, with a P6 to his name. He is going to add a pole position and a race win to his tally. Will be up at 22 points, so he will be our new championship leader, 5 points ahead of Oliver Nutt. Ryan Jacobs only picking up 3 points, will be on 15, still 2 down on Oliver. And with that 7 down to Rafael, Nando's going to pick up some nice points as well. Bennett Hayter, though, he's picked up a 2nd place. So it's 12 points to him. That means that he will be shared first in the championship with Rafael. So it's very nice to see that the drivers up ahead are so close to one another as we prepare for Spielberg next week. In the meantime, I see that Bennett is waiting in the waiting room for some interviews. They asked the other drivers. Rafael sadly couldn't make it. I'm not sure if Inversizo is going to drop by. He said first he would, and then not, so not sure if we're still going to see them. Bennett Hayter will be there, so in a moment we'll be interviewing him. But all things considered, and seeing the chaos that we had at the start, Josh, pretty smooth afterwards.
Yeah, and from what I've heard as well, there was in F2 an 8-car pileup in the castle section. So I think we had 2 or 3 cars coming together on the opening lap, and that was the majority of the incidents we had. All things considered, I think the drivers can be quite pleased with how everything went.
I think so indeed. With that, we are now going to move on to the interview, so I'm quickly going to change our overlays and move in Bennett Hayter. So here we have him then, a P2 tonight for Bennett Hayter after last week already saw him on the podium in third, meaning he will be up into 22 points, making him shared championship leader with Raphael. Bennett, you must be feeling great.
Yeah, nice to be back here giving an interview for the fans again.
Well, it was quite the race indeed, and I think the main point that we need to talk about is that safety car in lap 1.
Yeah, not really surprising to be honest. We were obviously expecting that there was going to be a lot of carnage. And yeah, we decided to copy Raphael. Later turned out to not be the best move. Because of later safety cars, we could have also done a one-stop. But yeah, that's always something that you need to take into consideration in these street circuits. So yeah, unfortunate, but okay for us.
Well, then let's first go back to your qualifying session. Were you happy with your quali time?
Mixed emotions about my qualifying. The lap itself wasn't bad considering the prep I had put into it, but I made a lot of mistakes on it, so there was quite a lot of time. Pole was definitely possible. I was planning to go into the 36s. Sadly missed out on it, but overall we obviously take a P2.
Yeah, it was a great lap, all things considered, and well, a little bit off of Raphael, but if it's just one position, that does not matter too much. In the race then, of course, you followed Raphael's strategy. Did you think at any point in the race that you were able to catch up with him and overtake him, or was he just a little bit too quick tonight?
I don't think he was too quick, to be honest. I just made one crucial mistake. And that cost us the win, definitely. Yeah, when trying to overtake, I can't remember actually who it was. It was into turn 1. I outbraked myself, and that cost 3 seconds roundabout, and also cost a chance on the victory because pace-wise, I think we could have challenged him.
Fair enough. And then, yeah, with that second place, you're now going to be up on 22 points. As already mentioned, you will be shared championship leader with Raphael. Is this something that you dare dreaming of before the season?
I really didn't think it would go this good, to be honest. But I'm really happy to see how it's going, and especially on a track like Baku, where I really didn't expect the good results. Keeping it clean, keeping the front nose intact, and also keeping the strategy on point. Shout out to my engineer, did a great job once again. Yeah, I think we can be really happy, and now we just gotta focus on the next rounds coming up.
Very good. Then moving over to Josh, any questions from your end?
I think you've covered most of it. How much more do you think you could have got if you had gone for the one stop like some of the other drivers did?
If we knew that there was going to be another safety car, we would have gone for the one stop strategy, and I think that would have actually sealed the deal. And yeah, but you never know. My engineer did a great job, and you know, he can't predict it. So in the end, I think we did a great job. But yeah, as I said, the one stop would have been the right call today.
Yeah, and fighting on that final lap as well, you got overtaken just starting the final lap and were about 7/10 behind. At that point, were you at all worried about whether you'd be able to catch up, or did you think there was still a good chance to pick up that second place?
Not at all. I was expecting him to stay behind, and I knew that we were going to be able to recharge the battery in sector 2, and then it was a free overtake basically. I was chilling in non-ERS for the entire lap, and then with ERS and the slipstream plus DRS, yeah, that didn't have me worried that I could overtake him back.
Very good. Then one final question from my end, of course. Now, as share championship leader, you're going to prepare for next week out in Spielberg, Austria. How's the track suiting you?
I don't know about Austria, to be honest. It's always been a decent track for me, but not a track where I was particularly great at. Quali pace was pretty mid around there. From my memory, I had good races, but also bad races, so it really can be anything. But yeah, we are aiming for a good result again, since we want to keep that championship lead alive.
That sounds very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us once again in the comms box. Congratulations on your podium. It was a step up from last week, and perhaps next week you can be on the top step of the podium.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, looks like that rounds off our interviews as well, as the other drivers sadly won't be joining us here in the comms box. But we've seen quite a good race out here tonight, Josh, and I think next week in Spielberg is going to be very, very close.
Yeah, and Austria, a track where you're always seeing close battles. Gaps decided by thousands of a second. I mean, things were already pretty close around Baku here, which is quite a long track, all things considered. Heading out to Austria, which is a relatively simple track with such a few number of corners. It's going to be an incredibly close battle, and the tyres aren't the most forgiving at Austria as well, so seeing how the drivers are going to manage that, whether they go for the one stop or the two stop, I think it's going to be a very interesting one.
It will be indeed. But of course, more about that next week as we round off the stream here for tonight. Hope you enjoyed the race here in Baku for your PCF4 drivers. We'll be resuming season 42 next week with race 3 in Austria, as mentioned before. Same time, same place. So at 8 p.m. British Standard Time, 9 p.m. for the rest of Europe. We'll be resuming on the 26th of February. That's going to be in Spielberg. So for tonight, once again, thank you so much for watching, and see you all next week. Good night.